Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to DissDash. My name is Monty Kataria. Today, we're going all the way from Delhi to Singapore, and we're talking to Mr. Amar Bedi. All right, Amar, before we do start, a little bit about yourself and what exactly you do. I believe you do have a lot of background in the startup, in the VC firm, and in entrepreneurship, and now, of course, MetaSikhs, which we'll get into later. But who is Amar Bedi per se?
So I'm originally from Delhi as well. Been living in Singapore for the last 7 years. My background's in finance. I've been working with tech companies for majority of my working life. So worked across some large companies like Uber and Grab, across business functions like BD, partnership, sales, operations, and then launched my own startup, Ava, last year. So I think we basically believe that the world is more and more moving towards freelancing. And the reason because of that is that I think the new generation, right, and that's Gen Z and after, doesn't associate themselves with companies anymore. That's kind of what we're building at Ava, where it's a platform which is end-to-end, enabled to help you find, assess, manage, and pay freelancers. So that's kind of my full-time gig. Got into the NFT space with a friend of mine who's one of the co-founders at MetaSikhs. Believe that there's a lot of relevancy, and this is still the early days of NFTs right now. Getting into the space, doing some investments, realize that hey, there's this opportunity to connect Sikhs in the metaverse, and let's use NFTs as a means to do that, right? That's how MetaSikhs evolved, and kind of it's just a side passion project that we've been working on for the past few months. And that's kind of a good summary of where things are right now.
Absolutely, Amar. Thank you so much for that, and congratulations to MetaSikhs. You mentioned NFTs maybe about 6 times in your brief intro. Can you explain to someone like myself or individuals who are watching this, who are listening to us, that do not know what the NFT space is all about, very briefly, if you can?
What NFTs essentially do is when you create a digital piece of art, you can assign a unique value, right, which is then linked to a smart contract which says this is the source of generation. From here onwards, as it gets sold, all those transactions are recorded on the blockchain ledger, and all the payments essentially can also be made on the basis of the smart contract that helps generate that piece of art, right? So that's kind of very unique to digital art, which is so different from physical art, mainly because if you look at physical art, it's hard to kind of track originality, who owned it, who created it, where did it get sold. There's so many issues in terms of what's fake, what's real, right? So all of that goes out of the window through digitization, which basically is enabled by NFTs.
So in terms of art, and when we look at MetaSikhs, we have avatars. So to be exact, 2,112 NFT avatars that kind of make up MetaSikhs. And I read somewhere that is the amount. There won't be any more. Is there a particular reason for that?
For us, the reason we chose the virtually generated X number of pieces was because we want to use this as a means to build an online community, right? So I think if you think of communities in the old school ways, they were built on the basis of locality. So you would build your community on the basis of your whoever lived around your area and had similar common interests, right? And as the world has grown smaller with the digitization, those lines have blurred of how you can build communities, right? So this NFT project is a way of getting like-minded Sikh Punjabi people around the world to come on board and join the community. 2112 was, I think, we were kind of looking at certain number of base traits, and there are certain numbers that we played with, right? So our third co-founder, who's kind of anonymous, basically created 300 plus hand-drawn traits. There was a certain nuances we used with defining what those traits would be, and that basically converted into a certain number of final output because we wanted to keep it unique, right? So that's on the basis of how we identified that certain traits should be used a certain number of times, and then we came up with the final number that we all personally really liked.
Awesome. Okay, now taking it one step back now, what exactly is MetaSikhs? And you said there's 3 founders per se, yourself, and then there's another friend of yours, and then one is anonymous right now. So how did MetaSikhs actually happen? And the anonymous individual is one with the chimpanzee artwork, right? I believe.
Actually not. So let me start with the story, right?
Sure.
Like I mentioned, I got into NFTs through this friend of mine, Karun, who is one of the co-founders in the project, and he's he got early into the NFT space, and as a good friend, he got his friends involved, and just kind of seeing what was happening in the space, I got really interested, and that's what got this project going, right? So I kind of came up with this idea that, hey, let's do something and create a Sikh-inspired avatar project, and spoke to Karan about it. He got super excited, and he brought on our third co-founder, who's D-jeetal, actually. So
got it.
Right, so that's why the name is D-jeetal. He's the artist. He kind of just, I think for his personal reasons, chooses to be anonymous. And he kind of came on board, and we discussed a bunch of different ideas in terms of how we want to showcase these avatars, right? So we went through multiple iterations of what kind of face we will use, what kind of expressions we will use, what kind of religious sentiments we can show, what we cannot show, because the idea is that we want to make this project inclusive, right? So we don't want to make this something that people stand up against and find faults with, right? So that's why we've tried to make this inclusive. We have guys with caps, we have guys without caps, because we feel like the thing that we're trying to explain over here is the core Sikh value, right? And for people out there who obviously just associate or understand Sikhism with the guy with the turban, we want to explain it's actually a lot more than that. We are here to help people not just buy an NFT, but actually understand why we believe this space is here to stay, and what's the value of this community in the long run.
That is awesome. Amar, thank you so much for your time. All the very, very best. And thank you for creating a space as such for everyone, for the entire community. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Monty. It was great chatting with you. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.